of years and thousands of years. We're going to, at least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. And these are done not just routinely done, these are done with total consideration and working with the nations that we're talking about. All of these nations have made contributions to those suggestions. I want to thank the leaders of many Arab and Muslim nations for their tremendous support in developing the proposal, along with many of our allies in Europe. Europe has been very much involved, and as I was called by many of the European leaders, most of them saying, is this true? Are you really doing peace in the Middle East? This is the most incredible thing we've heard. Some think it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They called just to find out, was it just a rumor or is it actually done? And then they said, have you spoken to the Arab leaders? Have you spoken to all of the other leaders that we have to get? A lot of people involved in this one. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years, decades, even centuries, and begin a new chapter of security, peace, and prosperity for the entire region. And I want to just say that my meetings and dialogue that we had with so many countries, Saudi Arabia as an example, the king is a phenomenal person. The Emir of Qatar, he's incredible people. UAE, and that's MBZ and ABZ. We're totally involved. These are the people that we've been dealing with and who've been actually very much involved in this negotiation, giving us ideas, things they can live with, things they can't live with. Pretty complex. I mean, after 2,000, 3,000 years, whatever it is, I guess it's got to be a little complex, or it would have been done a long time ago. The King of Jordan was with us, as you know, in the United Nations. The President of Turkey, President Erdogan, is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader, Prabowo. He is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this pact. It just came out just as I was walking around. They said, sir, you have a big notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015 and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. but I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you, in many cases, they're great men, and some great women too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. But if accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons of production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza, working with the new transitional authority in Gaza. All parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully. As progress is made toward achieving these goals, Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great Vice President, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close, but it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone understands that the ultimate result must be the elimination of any danger posed in the region, and that danger is caused by Hamas. The tyranny of terror has to end, and this is, again, something that we're looking for. This is eternity. This is for forever. To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed Not at my request, believe me. I'm very busy. But we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. That's what I want, is some extra work to do, but it's so important that I'm willing to do it, and we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others, and they'll be named over the next few days, and it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with. Working with the World Bank and others, it'll be responsible for recruiting and training a new government that will be made up of Palestinians along with highly qualified experts from all around the world. Hamas and other terrorist factions will play no role in the board, but they'll play no role in the governance of Gaza at all, directly or indirectly. As you know, thousands of Hamas leaders have been killed and soldiers have been killed. And we can never forget October 7th, but thousands have paid the price for that. And now it's time to get our hostages back and get back to trying to build something that's really great and very important. In our meeting today, Prime Minister Netanyahu was very clear about his opposition to a Palestinian state. And he continuously mentions October 7th, and I understand that. Most people do. And I understand and respect his position on many things, but what he's doing today is so good for Israel. I notice that they have large crowds gathering in Israel all the time, and they have my name up. They like me for whatever reason, Bibi, I don't know, but they do like me. But they say two things: please get the hostages back and please end the war. They've had it. It's had it. So I think it's a very popular thing you do, because he's a warrior. He doesn't know about getting back to a normal way of life, but he is a warrior, and Israel's lucky to have him. But now the people want to get back to peace. They want to get back to normalization in a true sense. Several countries have foolishly recognized the Palestinian state. As you know, some of our European friends, allies, good people, but they're really, I think, doing that because they're very tired of what's going on for so many decades. They've been presidents and prime ministers for years, and during this time, having to do with the Middle East, all they're doing is talking about the same thing over and over. They want to see it get back. And nobody wants that more than me, or I believe Bibi too. But the people of Israel want it. They really want it. They want the hostages back. That includes the probably 32 bodies that we're talking about, 20 people that are living, 32 or so people that are dead, and they want to have peace. So let us not forget how we got here. Hamas was elected by the Palestinian people. Israel withdrew from Gaza thinking they would live in peace. Remember that a long time ago, they withdrew. They said, you take it. This is our contribution to peace. But that didn't work out. That didn't work out. It was the opposite of peace. They pulled away. They let them have it. And I never forgot that, because I said, that doesn't sound like a good deal to me. As a real estate person, I mean, they gave up the ocean, right? Ron, they gave up the ocean. They said, who would do this deal? And it still didn't work out. They were very generous, actually. And they gave up the most magnificent piece of land in many ways in the Middle East. And they said, all we want to do now is have peace. And that request was not honored. Instead of building a better life for the Palestinians, Hamas diverted resources to build over 400 miles of tunnels and terror infrastructure, rocket production facilities, and hid their military command posts and launch sites in hospitals, schools, and mosques. So if you went after them, you'd be after them, and you wouldn't even realize you ended up knocking out a hospital or school or a mosque. That terrible thing, terrible way to have to fight. No fight is good, but that's a real bad one. So there are many Palestinians who wish to live in peace. Many. I've seen so many of them. And they have support. And I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny, because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas. If the Palestinian Authority does not complete the reforms that I laid out in my vision for peace in 2020, they'll have only themselves to blame. We're giving them an amazing footprint, and they have amazing support from the leaders of the Arab world and the Muslim world, the great leaders. These are great leaders. These are unbelievable leaders that have built great countries and very wealthy countries. What the future holds for the Palestinians, no one really knows, but the plan that we put forward today is focused on ending the war immediately, getting all of our hostages back, getting everything back. Hard to believe when you even say it, and creating conditions for durable Israeli security and Palestinian success. Israeli security is going to be involved. We're going to help you. We'll be there with you in terms of helping with security. We want to make sure it works. We just want to make sure it works. There shouldn't be a shot fired. Now, there will be, I guess, because that's the way it seems to be, but they shouldn't have to be within a few days. They shouldn't have to be a shot fired. And maybe for eternity. Wouldn't that be nice? I hope it's true. I can tell you the leadership of that region feels that there's a good chance of it being true. So this will lead to this agreement that we're talking about will lead to a sustainable long-term peace. No president in history has been a greater friend of the state of Israel than I have, in addition to negotiating the Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way because the real people, that's what they call Abraham. I would say Abraham, but it's so much nicer when you say Abraham. So much more elegant. But the Abraham Accords, they're amazing. Jared, you did that along with your group of geniuses, and nobody thought that could be done. We have 4 countries, and Sleepy Joe Biden didn't do a thing. He didn't even know what the hell they were. He should have had them filled up. But I think this will also lead to packing them. And who knows, maybe even Iran can get in there. I hope, we hope we're going to be able to get along with Iran. I think they're going to be open to it. I really believe that. But they could be a member. I long ago said, I'll bet you at some point Iran will be a member of the Accords. And little did I realize it was going to take this turn. That was some turn we did with the B-2s. But I think they might very well be there because it's a great thing for them economically. I recognize the eternal capital of Israel. I opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. That was something that everyone said would never be done, could never be done. Virtually every president for many, many years, for decades, would campaign on making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. They campaigned on it over and over. Is that right, Steve? Is that right? Everyone, and when they got to it, and I understand why now, because it was so, when I got to office, I campaigned on it too. I said, we're going to make it. And then I'd get calls from the leaders of various countries saying, please don't do it, please don't do it. It'll end the whole world, please don't do it. And finally, I just didn't say anything, and I did it. People were calling me before I did it because they heard I was going to do it, and leaders of countries were calling me, and I think it was on a Thursday that I did it, and they'd call me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3-4 times a day, and I said, tell them I'll call them back on Friday. And I announced it on Thursday, and I called them back, the biggest people in the world, and they said, you've done it. I said, done what? You've made the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, and we wanted to talk yet. I wish you called me a little sooner. Maybe I could have done something about it. So that was a lot easier than getting into an argument because I knew what they were calling about. And you know what? It turned out to be amazing. Everybody thought it was going to lead to the end of the world, right? The end of the world, Ron. That's what they said. It didn't lead to anything. it just led to something that I promised and something that was very, very popular for Jewish people and a lot of other people, too. I recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and I cut taxpayer funding to the corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And United Nations was interesting because, as you know, a few days ago, they introduced me. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, I'm looking at my teleprompter, and the thing was dead, stone cold, dead. The thing's up here. I have a long, beautiful speech to make. I'm back 30 feet back, and I'm saying, they're introducing me. There's nothing on my teleprompter. So, but I made a speech. I actually got good marks. You think Biden could have done that? I don't think so. I don't think he could have done that. I don't think too many people could have done it. But actually, it was actually more of a speech from my heart, if you want to know the truth. I think it was maybe better in certain ways because it was from the heart. It has to be from the heart. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. But I cut taxpayer funding for that very corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and nobody thought that would be done, and withdrew from the horrible Iran nuclear deal that was imposed upon Israel by Barack Hussein Obama and Biden. And I don't think Biden knew anything about it, though. I don't think he knows anything about it now, actually, if you ask him. He'd say, what is that? And we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity, making it impossible for them to have a nuclear weapon, which they would have had probably in about 2 months from that. But I've never asked Israel to compromise its security, but we had big, strong talk. Nobody's been better to Israel. No president's been better to Israel than Donald Trump. But we had a long, strong talk, Bibi and I, and he understands it's time. It's time. History has shown, and the people of Israel want it. And the people of the Middle East want it. The people of enemies of Israel want it, but they don't have really too many enemies right now. And you know what? Many countries have gained great respect for Israel, for the way they fight, for the job they do, including me. I had respect anyway, but they gained respect. History has shown us that those who have relations with Israel have thrived, while those who have devoted resources and attention toward the destruction and even annihilation of Israel have languished. They haven't done well. Israel is not going anywhere. They're going to coexist with other people and countries in the region, from Syria to Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. The promise of a new Middle East is so clearly within our reach. This is the closest we've ever come to real peace, not fake peace, not political fool's peace. If we can get this difficult problem solved, the opportunities for all within that vast region of this world, it's a vast region, it's unlimited. The Abraham Accords show that all countries are better off when they communicate and work together and embrace new opportunities. I hope Jared and Steve and Susie and Marco and JD, we have great people. I hope you guys are going to work very hard to get these other countries in, because now they have no excuse. There's no longer an excuse. They were somewhere hesitant. And I tell you, the 4 countries that went in, I give them tremendous credit, and it's worked out incredibly well for them. In the same spirit, I'm pleased to report that earlier today, we took another important step toward greater understanding in the region. A short time ago, we had a historic phone call in the Oval Office with Prime Minister Tani, who's really a great person. So we had a great talk, and I was on the phone, and Bibi was talking. Prime Minister Al-Thani was of Qatar. They really had a heart-to-heart conversation. It was a great conversation, I thought. It was productive. It was everything that you need to have something turn out to be successful. And I want to thank Bibi, and I want to thank the Prime Minister. It was fantastic. We agreed to launch a formal trilateral mechanism between Israel, Qatar, and the United States to begin a dialogue to enhance mutual security, correct misperceptions, and avoid future misgivings. And I want to thank Qatar, its leadership, and the Emir. He's a fantastic person. I think, I'm going to be his public relations man because I know him differently than a lot of people know him. But he wants peace. He wants to see peace. And his people, and they really acknowledge the critical role that they've played as mediator. And again, we're not quite finished. We have to get Hamas, but I think they're going to be able to do that. So now it's time for Hamas to accept the terms of the plan that we've put forward today. And again, this is a different Hamas than we were dealing with because I guess over 20,000 have been killed. Their leadership has been killed 3 times over. So you're really dealing with different people than we've been dealing with over the last 4 years, 5 years. Everyone has done their part and come to the table in good faith. Our Arab and Muslim partners are fully prepared to step up and fulfill their commitments for the benefit of the people of Gaza and the entire region. They're willing to step up and do a lot. They really are. There are a lot of good people involved. Everybody who wants to see an end to the violence and destruction should be united in calling for Hamas to accept the extremely fair proposal so that we can end the war and get us back our hostages right now and have everlasting peace. And I look forward to having relationships with everyone. As the chairman of the board, I'll be involved, and we'll have meetings with some very smart people that'll be working over there to make sure that we haven't just been wasting time with an agreement that doesn't get done. The task of building peace will not be easy. There are some of the hardest problems in the world to solve, and that's why it's been going on for so many centuries. But too many lives are at stake not to try, and this was more than a try. I mean, I think this is something that gets done when you have virtually every country, and these are powerful, powerful countries that have a lot of money, and the money can make things happen. A lot of countries try, and they don't have any money. These are very rich countries that can make things happen. So together we'll forge a much safer and more hopeful future for everybody, including Israel. And I want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for his partnership. And I want to thank all of the leaders, the kings and the emirs and the presidents and prime ministers, people I mentioned. And they've been absolutely fantastic to work with. And it's just happened very quickly. It's happened from a couple of weeks before I had a couple of meetings, but a couple of weeks before we went to the United Nations. And we had some incredible meetings. It all came to place. It all took place, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. I don't have anybody that's saying we don't want anything to do with it. It's just the opposite. And I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, a year ago, I don't think we would have had this kind of participation, Mr. VP, right? I don't think we would have had. It's been amazing. The participation was 100%. Everybody wants to be a part of it. And everybody, those very strong countries, everybody wants it to work. So, Bibi, congratulations on this. I think this will be your crowning achievement, frankly. If this all works out, we think it will. It's going to be your crowning achievement, and I want to thank you very much for being here. Thank you, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. President, first I want to thank you for graciously hosting me once again in the White House. And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. While you focus at home on making America great again, your leadership abroad is changing the world for the better, ending wars and advancing peace. I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East. And I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism. Mr. President, when our two countries stand shoulder to shoulder, we achieve the impossible. Just a few months ago, in Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, we struck a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Your bold decision to send those B-2s made the region safer and the world safer. Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace. Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Passed it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately. Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours. The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think, helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want. Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done. We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorism, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. In your 2020 peace plan, which you mentioned just now, you made clear what that transformation requires. It's not lip service. It's not checking a box. It's a fundamental, genuine, and enduring transformation. And that means ending pay to slay, changing the poisonous textbooks that teach hatred to Jews, to Palestinian children, stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots. But rather than wait for this miraculous transformation, your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region. Under your leadership, we can re-energize, I've got to contribute my own, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords. That's what it's called in the original Hebrew, Abraham. Abraham is fine, Abraham, however you want to call it. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords that we forged 5 years ago. We can expand them to many more Arab and Muslim nations that choose moderation over extremism. I think there's an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy, it's tough going, but I think if we succeed, you're absolutely right. We're going to open possibilities that nobody even dreamed of. But I think we dream of them. As you've told me, Mr. President, and you've told the world many, many times, you said, remember October 7th. Remember October 7th. And we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it, it's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse. I want to thank your entire team for their efforts to get to this point. I especially want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for their indefatigable work to bring Israel and Arab states in the region closer together. I am deeply grateful to both of them for their work. We had a phone call today just to make it clear. I said to the Prime Minister of Qatar, Israel was targeting terrorists, wasn't targeting Qatar. And of course, we regretted the loss of the Qatari citizen, wasn't our target. And I very much appreciate President Trump's proposal to have a trilateral body, the United States, Israel, and Qatar, to work out respective grievances. There are quite a few. But if we could try to mitigate them or put it on a different footing, I think that'll be good for everyone. Above all the people, the fine team, the many helpers who've done this, I want to thank you, Mr. President. History has already shown that under your leadership, Israel and America can change the face of the Middle East. And today I'm hopeful that your plan to end the war in Gaza will do so again and do so soon. It will free our hostages, end Hamas's tyranny in Gaza, and enable a more secure and prosperous future for the peoples of our region. Thank you, Mr. President. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. May God bless the indispensable alliance between our countries. And may I add in Hebrew, G'mal Chatima Tova, may we all be inscribed in the book of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bibi. So I think while we wait for these documents to be signed and get everybody in line, I think it maybe is not really appropriate to take questions. I'm meeting with, as you know, a couple of Democrats in a little while about the country, about keeping our country open. They're going to have to do some things because their ideas are not very good ones. They're very bad for our country. So we'll see how that works out. But this is something that was really historic today. This was something that was amazing. I think, Bibi, I mean, depending on you, I think while we're waiting for signatures and waiting for approvals from a lot of different countries that are involved in this, we probably shouldn't take questions, or would you like to take a question or two from perhaps a friendly Israeli reporter, if there's such a thing?
That's a very, very tough proposition. But I would think, Mr. President, that I would go by your instinct that this is, we'll have enough time for questions. Let's settle the issue first, I think.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, you've been listening to President Donald Trump at the White House alongside the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, releasing what the White House is calling a comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. We thought this was going to be a news conference. It was more of an announcement made by Donald Trump and reaction from the Israeli Prime Minister. No questions, as you saw there from reporters. Donald Trump saying that, you know, I'm summarizing, but it was sort of sensitive in this time to try and just make sure others are in agreement with this. But very basically, the plan includes the release of all the remaining hostages, alive or dead, lead to the end of the war itself, a demilitarization of Gaza, and Donald Trump saying he's hearing that Hamas wants to get this done. We heard from Benjamin Netanyahu saying that Donald Trump is the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House, and it's not even close, but that this does align with Israel's plan on ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for peace in the Middle East. I support your plan. And the CBC's Katie Nicholson was listening into that. Well, we won't call it a news conference because it wasn't really a news conference, but it was an announcement of a plan. What did you make of it?
It was very, well, Trumpian, with a lot of the hyperbole that we have come to expect. But certainly what was interesting to us was the sort of release of this plan that we have heard so much about by the White House just prior to the president taking the stand. Or taking up to the mic and talking about his plan for peace in the Middle East. In fact, he said eternal peace in the Middle East. This is something that he is definitely, you know, he's been pushing towards throughout this time. I thought what was interesting was many of the ways he tried to address the complexities and some of the sticking points for Netanyahu. So one of the things that had come out of these discussions, of this proposal, was this notion that it was going to leave the door open to a sovereign Palestinian state, one of these 21 points. I can just read this out to you from the White House.
Yep.
It says, while Gaza redevelopment advances and reform programs faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway for Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. In speaking with Netanyahu next to him, he acknowledged that this was not something that, of course, the Israeli Prime Minister necessarily wants to see, that he is against, and will have a hard time perhaps selling, and will create friction with some of the hard right factions in his coalition government.
Does that seem to be a disparity, Katie, in terms of what the White House has released as being part of the plan with that recognition, and how Benjamin Netanyahu characterized?
Certainly a tension point.
Right.
And yet we have Netanyahu saying that he has agreed in principle to this plan. The question is, what does Hamas say? They reportedly haven't seen this yet. They haven't agreed to it. And we heard again both President Donald Trump and Netanyahu speak about what happens if they do not agree to this plan. And so we heard the president say that if this plan fails, that the United States will fully back Israel in what it needs to do to take on Hamas further.
Katie, we're just going to let you, your mic isn't on, so you're using my mic, so we're just going to try and get you to fix your mic while I go through a little more of that. So we heard from the U.S. president, and there were no questions being taken. Katie's just going to get her mic fixed. We heard that the U.S. president, no questions were being taken, that this would lead to the end of the war itself. I think I mentioned that. And then we heard from Benjamin Netanyahu saying all hostages, alive and dead, returned home, Hamas disarmed, Gaza demilitarized, and that there would be a peaceful civilian organization that is not the Palestinian Authority or Hamas. And also, Katie, when we were talking a little bit about this while we were listening in, and we did hear Benjamin Netanyahu refer back to the missile strikes on Qatar, saying that we regress the loss of Qatari citizens. They were not the target.
Yes, and again, this is him speaking again about striking conciliatory, a different tone. This plan, if everybody signs on, will require buy-in, the cooperation of multiple people in the region, other leaders, other countries, and that's why I think this particular phone call was so important. We heard about this trilateral body that is going to be set up, whereby Qatar, the U.S., Israel will be able to work through some of their differences, and that is again more progress towards easing some of the tensions in and around this conflict and conflicts throughout the region.
And so we're just going to fix your mic again. We're just having some microphone problems, but it's all right. This happens. So the question is, we've been down this road before, right, in terms of there's a plan in place to end the war. We know that the 2-year mark of this war since Hamas attacked Israel is coming up. It's coming up in just over a week from now. So, Katie, let's talk about whether or not this plan is more comprehensive, is more detailed. Is the time now that this plan will be accepted by both Israel, by Hamas, but also by others who will be partners in this plan for peace?
It certainly seems that the international goodwill is there. There are international leaders. Tony Blair's name has come up, the former British Prime Minister, again and again, tied to this. They talked about this sort of board that would help oversee this technocratic governing body that would essentially help get a governing structure on its feet, rebuild Gaza. And with that kind of buy-in from international partners, there's certainly much more optimism, but we've been here before. There have been deals that have come close before. Certainly, a number of Israeli political analysts have pointed to the fact that Netanyahu is getting an awful lot of pressure within his own country. It's mounting, particularly from the families of the hostages as well, but inside the country, just from the general populace who want to see an end to this. And he has, it has been suggested, been looking for an off-ramp. So this sort of broad package appears to give, as he said to the president, it gives him everything he has been looking for. So a demilitarization of Gaza. It's going to return all of the hostages. So he said before us, just 10 minutes ago, that this sort of hits all of the objectives that they have been looking for. Now, the question is, as negotiations continue, what does Hamas have to say? Are there any counter offers? And where does it go from here? So it really is, it certainly seems promising. Yeah. But again, so much depends on what Hamas has to say.
And then just finally, Netanyahu will have to sell this within his government, right?
That's the other
and that could be a challenge too.
Right. And again, you've got those hard right factions that, and We heard him speak about this idea of a sovereign Palestinian state. It is not something, again, that he has said he ever really wants to see. There it is right there in the White House bullet points. That is one of the doors opening here, one of the points that could happen. And Trump again acknowledged Netanyahu's discomfort with that. It is something that is going to cause friction within his own coalition. But there it is. It's one of the points. And unless it's negotiated away, that is something that, if this plan is actualized, would be on the table.
Katie, thank you. The CBC's Katie Nicholson. So let's stay on the story and bring in Marwa Maziad. She's a professor of international relations and Israel studies at the University of Maryland. And so, Marwa, what did you make of what we heard from Trump and Netanyahu?
It's significant. It's dizzying almost. The amount, 20 points, right? I think it's a victory for Netanyahu. He's setting the tone out of this war, if there is an end to it, if Hamas accepts, if we proceed with this. And it seems like we're at the juncture where the world wants to see the end of this war in Gaza. But Netanyahu has it his way. He even really listed that the 5 points that his government, his cabinet wanted from the beginning of the war are to be achieved through these 20 points. It demilitarized Gaza, end of Hamas in leadership or as a resistance movement or an armed group of whatsoever. No place for the Palestinian Authority. A perimeter of security presence of Israel. He's not saying he's withdrawing completely. It's going to be phased, but he's not going to leave even that perimeter that he occupied. A number of other points, and of course the release of hostages at the upfront of that. So I think he's coming out of that after 2 years saying, I rest my case. I outlasted the detractors, the criticism, and here I'm getting what I wanted with also the consent of these Arab countries. Like, they are going to play a role in training the policing forces within Gaza. Egypt and Jordan and other Arab countries will play either a role in terms of security on the ground or kind of this economic boom that is supposed to be. Some of the points is about, making it an economic free zone, etc. So it's almost, Netanyahu is getting all what he wants with the support of the United States. Maybe the only thing that his government and his extremist government would have wanted would have been a Gaza without Palestinians, all these forced displacement and voluntary immigration, etc. It seems like that is not going to happen. This is the point that Egypt really pushed for, that there is no exodus of all these Palestinians into Sinai or elsewhere, and also the other Arab countries. So at least now we have supposedly Gaza with Palestinians and an end of the war minus Hamas, but also minus the Palestinian Authority. So it's as if the Palestinians are told, you're not ready yet to self-govern, you're not yet capable of governing yourself. Go through all the motions anew and create a new body of technocrats and politicians, etc., so that we can accept you. And in the interim, we have a board of the peace and Donald Trump at the helm of it, and also kind of this name, Tony Blair, who has this connotation of the war in Iraq and whatever, insisting to insert himself in this body. So it's reminiscent of almost of the mandate, the British mandate, So there are many details in this 20-point plan, very exhaustive, but if it ends the war, I think the Palestinians, the people in Gaza, everywhere in the world, people want to see that achieved.
Do you think that will be? Do you think that will be achieved? Do you think we heard from Donald Trump saying, "I'm hearing Hamas wants to get this done"? Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu will be able to sell it within his government that does include some hard right factions? I mean, is this going to work?
I see that Netanyahu can make it work for himself. If he wants this, and he does, he will make it happen, because either he will now exercise the power over these elements in his government that are extremely right-wing, that he hasn't exercised yet. He actually used them as an excuse throughout to say, oh, but my government will collapse. Now I think he can show them that he's boss and say, actually, I don't really necessarily need you all that much. You are taking us to an extreme. Most Israelis want a way out of this war, want their hostages back, want reintegration in the world. So he can actually exercise a little bit of pressure on his in these elements in his government, and also the left-wing part of the Israeli political scene have been extending their own hands to him and saying, you know, if you want to replace those extremists by us, maybe we can collaborate. So I think Netanyahu will have a way out if he wants to push for this plan that Trump wants. Then he'll manage to manipulate his way with his government and his coalition, etc. Would Hamas accept that? I think Hamas is so weakened and isolated, and actually, you know, many of its elements are dead, replaced. Even Trump mentioned leaders, three layers of leaders have been replaced, etc. And I think the Arab countries, the Arab leaders, are also kind of fed up with them. They are saying that they haven't made the progress in the negotiations throughout that were expected of them. So I think Hamas might find that this is kind of like there's no one else backing them, especially with what was shown in Iran. And so they might have to accept this.
Marwa, I just have one final question for you, and that is Donald Trump once again criticized countries who have recognized Palestinian statehood. That, of course, includes Canada. But in the press release, kind of at the end of this press release from the White House on the president's plan, and this is what it says: while Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform programs is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. And then it goes on to say the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. What do you make of what we heard from the president, but also including that in the official release?
I think the wording of this entire paragraph is so exact. It conveys that as if we're undoing really the past 30 years since the Oslo talks and the path towards autonomy. It was supposed to take 5 years of self-governance and autonomy, and then that would be a path towards statehood. With this framing here, it's as if it's saying the Palestinians are not there yet. They are not close to their statehood. They have to go through all new motions and be accepted by Israel anew. And if and when they do that, we don't know how long that will take, maybe another 30 years, we recognize that that is a way of self-determination as an aspiration of them. It's kind of like, I'm just recognizing that that's their aspiration to self-determination, but are they there yet? Are they qualified? No. So I think the wording here is a way out of any commitment to Palestinian statehood and Palestinian self-determination. That's why we have a board of peace headed by Tony Blair, or Trump and Blair being a member. So, and Trump said foolishly, all those who recognize the Palestinian state. So I think it's clear that the position of Trump and the United States is adopting Netanyahu's viewpoint that the Palestinians are not ready to be a state next door to Israel, and that's the real, it's the crux of the conflict still. So would that mean actually that down the road there would be more resistance and conflict, etc., or would that be a way of suppressing all of that with this new framework, just in the hope of ending the war and the bloodshed?
Marwa, good to talk to you. Thank you. Marwa Maziad, thank you very much.